So you're looking for some more uncommon versions of common houseplants. You're at that point in your houseplant journey where you just want something a little bit spicier that you can like mix up your collection with. You've got the basics down. Well, this is list number 2 of uncommon versions of common houseplants. Basically things that you probably already know how to take care of because you've already got them in your collection, but they're like variegated or rarer in some way, shape, or form. And so same care, a little bit more fun. That's what this list is. If you haven't seen part 1 to this, I have it linked down below in the description, so go have a look at that. But I wanted to do a part 2 and y'all were asking for it, so here we are today. Before we get into it though, I want to say if you're new here and you don't know me already, hi, my name is Emma and I make houseplanty content all over the internet. So if you want to follow along with my houseplanty journey and maybe learn something along the way, stick around, watch more of my videos and subscribe to my channel. If you are not new here, welcome back. I really appreciate you returning. Now let us get into these plants. One plant that was kind of missing off the end of the last video, I think I got a couple comments saying they expected some of these on the list, is begonias. You're probably used to like the sort of classic polka dot begonia immaculata. They're in most plant shops. They are fairly common, but there are definitely some levels of rarity within begonias. I'm just not as familiar with them because I'm still quite new to it. So I'm like, I don't really know what counts as rare with them. So I actually asked my friend India, Begonia Addict, over on Instagram about like what constitutes a sort of rare begonia, what she finds to be rare, specifically in the UK because that's where we're based. A lot of these things you might be able to get better in the US than in the UK, but first off, one of the things she said was the begonia black forest, which I have here. This gorgeous thing here. It's kind of got that same begonia immaculata polka dot vibe, but a lot darker in the leaves and kind of more curly. I think it's a sort of great upgrade to the classic begonia immaculata. It has exactly the same care. I treat them exactly the same way and it is growing very, very well. Personally, I keep all my begonias in semi-hydro because I find that they're quite thirsty and they like having that bit of extra watering because I'm usually a chronic underwaterer and that hasn't really worked for begonias with me in the past until I put them in semi-hydro. So I've got all of them in semi-hydro now and this one absolutely loves it. My immaculata loves it. And I just find it really, really cool. Another one that she mentioned was the pink minx, which, look at this plant. It is so cool. It's like a silvery pink, sort of more fingery leaf. It's got some more edges than this sort of more angel wing shaped leaf, and I find those really, really cool. I think they're quite new-ish on the scene, and I think that's one of the things that is a little bit difficult about begonias because they are quite easy to hybridize. They flower quite well. There's constantly more and more new hybrids that are coming out, and so like technically all of those new hybrids are uncommon or rare, but they might not all be viable, and it's possible that someone's hybridized them before or whatever. And so it's one of those things where just because it's new and uncommon doesn't mean it is a viable plant, and so it's hard to like kind of classify what counts as uncommon. India also mentioned the begonia Sinbad, which I've got here. This thing, I am obsessed with my begonia Sinbad. Basically, as soon as I saw one, I knew it was something that I needed to have in my collection. I love, like, look at these leaves. They almost look minty, but it's just that there are like loads and loads of tiny little polka dots in there. It is just so cool and pretty, and like it flowers constantly. This is actually my most flowering begonia, but I'm pretty sure I've heard that it's infertile. Like it only produces male flowers. It doesn't produce any female ones, so it can't hybridize further than this. So maybe that's like a poor genetic mutation, but like for the leaves on it, I'd say it's definitely worth it because it is a really, really cool one. I would highly recommend this one. It has been such a fast growing begonia for me. Honestly, it like drinks the water out of this no drainage container so fast. so fast that I have to refill it very, very regularly. I refilled it today, but it'll probably need another refill in a couple days because it grows so quickly, and it's already gotten quite big considering I got it like maybe a couple months ago. It is really growing fast. So I highly recommend the Sinbad if you want like a fairly easy one. I'm not too sure how easy they are to get in the US. Like I said, I'm more familiar with the UK market because that's the market I'm in, but it is possible to get this, and because they are so fast growing, I could imagine them definitely coming down in price. None of these ones have been particularly expensive begonias so far, and because begonias are so easy to propagate, I feel like they're only going to get less expensive. So if you are concerned about price or anything on any of these, maybe wait a little bit. I feel like I'm pretty regularly pruning my begonias, and this sounds really bad. I end up throwing half the prunings into the bin because I don't like have someone to give them to. So, I mean, this isn't an offer to send begonia cuttings because I couldn't possibly send them to all of you, but there's definitely some that I have that I'd be more than willing to share a little bit. So, yeah, it's just a really cool one. And another great thing about begonias is once you propagate them, they branch out even more. And so another thing with begonias is there's variegated begonia maculatas. Y'all, I'm not the biggest fan of pink plants in general, and I know a lot of begonias are pink, but look at this. Like, they're just so freaking pretty. The like splashes of pink variegation on their leaves, and you can get the sort of classic maculata variegated, or there's the snowcap variegated, or almost any of the sort of cane-like begonias. I have seen pictures here and there on Instagram. They're like not the most common things in the world. Obviously, this is an uncommon plants video, but they do come up, and you do see them, and you can find them. And if I can get my hands on a variegated begonia, snowcap specifically, sometime soon, I will. I think they are also becoming more popular and coming down in price, at least here in the UK, so that's awesome. I'm really glad about that. But, there's just so many cool begonias out there that I, like, really want. And one day I will get, but, you know, I've got plenty of time. I don't need to now. There was another one that she mentioned, the palensis, which is such a cool begonia. It's apparently a lot easier to find in the US, but it's basically not impossible. I'm sure it's not impossible, but very, very, very difficult to find here in the UK. It's not something that is sort of common to around here, but they're so, so cool with those spider webby leaves. I think they're nicknamed begonia spiderweb or something because of these leaves. And they can grow quite big. I think they're called shield begonias, big shield-like leaves. Really, really cool. I know Wild Fern has one, and I am so envious of that one because it just looks so big and beautiful and fun and different that I would absolutely love to add one of those to my collection at some point. But at this current point in time, we don't really have them in the UK, so I probably won't. If we want to go in the opposite direction, something that you can find in the UK that you can't really find in the US, one of my favorites is an uncommon type of peperomia, which again, you can find in pretty much any sort of plant shop. They've got really cool sort of semi-succulent leaves, really fun. This one is one that I know my US audience is very, very captivated by, but cannot find. So like, sorry for continuing to taunt y'all with it, but this is the begonia sarcophylla, which is this stunning, huge leafed peperomia. Like, I'm used to seeing peperomias with like tiny little leaves, like peperomia prostrata, which is a string of turtles, tiny leaves. Like a tussivolia getting bigger, but nothing this like huge and big and thick. Oh my goodness, this is just an absolute stunning plant. I have found it a little bit more difficult, given in general I find peperomias not to be the easiest, but if you do find peperomias easy, this one probably wouldn't be that much more challenging. But I have found it a little bit difficult to get them to grow the nice big beautiful leaves. It has grown these 3 leaves in my care, and you can see these last couple have been a little bit wonky. This one's given itself a bit of a hole in there, unfortunately, but that's okay. I'm not mad at it. It's growing how it needs to. Maybe I need to move it into a bit of a brighter situation, because right now I've not got it in a very bright spot, and so it might benefit from something a little bit brighter. I should probably also dust it. You can see it is the littlest bit dusty in there. I do dust it like fairly regularly, but it's one of the, because it's got such like broad flat leaves, they end up getting dusty regardless. So it is a really cool one. I love how the leaves kind of look like if an anthurium and a succulent had a baby. I'm here for that. But if you can get your hands on one of these, that would be awesome. Hopefully, I'm still got my fingers crossed for my US folk that these will be on the market somewhat soon. There is another big leaf peperomia out there that you could get instead. I know they are available in the US. They're still not like common, but they are more about the peperomia maculosa. It's also big leaved, but not like quite as stunning, in my opinion, as the sarcophylla. But if you want something that's similar, it could be a really good option. This next one is an uncommon version of the philodendron micans, the like sort of dark velvety heart-leafed philodendron. Very, very common. You can get it in most plant shops. There's a variegated version, and of course it's more uncommon, and I've heard slightly more challenging. I've not tried one myself, but I have heard they are a little bit prone to reverting. And so, like, I would definitely try and buy one from a reputable source. They are becoming much more available. I feel like 2 years ago, you could, like, barely find them, like, maybe, and they'd be quite expensive. But nowadays, they are slowly making their way onto the, like, sort of, like, uncommon plant market that's like accessible to people like me who don't want to spend like hundreds and thousands of pounds on houseplants. And so we're slowly getting there with the micans variegated. I do think it is quite cool. I have seen some that do look a little bit more sickly with that sort of yellow variegation, and I don't think they're my cup of tea. I can appreciate it. I think they look cool. I just don't think they're quite for me. Which is fine. They don't have to be. I don't have to like every plant. I can like it in somebody else's home, but not in my home. That's kind of how I feel about the variegated micans. If you want something a little bit more unkillable, I mean, mostly no plants are fully unkillable except for plastic ones, which we're not talking about here. We're talking about the real life houseplants. You probably have heard of snake plants, sansevierias, or Dracaena trifasciata, if you want to get into those fancy Latin names. But snake plants. The mother-in-law's tongue is the most common one. It's got those like green centers and yellow outsides, a bit of stripiness to them. But there are some more uncommon versions of snake plants, and I have one here. This beauty is my Sansevieria metallica. I know it's a Dracaena, but you know, I call it a Sansevieria. It is a metallica snake plant, and they are a lot more uncommon. You can't really necessarily find them in your sort of your like everyday plant shop. I think I got this one online a few years back, but like from a rare plant shop, not from a sort of typical plant grower. But if you see the metallica out there in the wild, I highly recommend you get it because they are not any more difficult to grow than normal snake plant mother-in-law's tongue. They're just as easy, just as like resilient. I've got mine currently in fairly low light, and it's totally fine and happy in that situation. It's grown tall like this when it was in higher light, so if you want them to grow taller, snake plant in general, grow them in higher light, but they can tolerate lower light and do just as well. You just have to water them a little bit less, which is perfectly easy and acceptable. There are some other really cool, unconventional, uncommon snake plants, one of which is the Star Canyon granite, I think is what it's called. And oh my goodness, like this one is so weird, and I can definitely see why some people like it, but in my brain it looks like a dead plant because it's mostly brown, but like it's still living, it's still healthy, but this is what it looks like as a healthy plant. And while that is a little bit weird, I kind of love it at the same time. Again, it's one that I think is not necessarily for my collection, but could be for loads of other people. I know loads of other people have said they really like this one, they've really wanted this one, and again, I'm pretty sure it is fairly easy to take care of as well, or really easy, because it's a snake plant after all. Like, it says Sansevieria. They're easy. It's also got a sister that I like a bit more. I think it's the Star Green. No. Yeah, the granite green star or something like that. Or green canyon. Some sort of, it's the granite green as opposed to the granite star canyon. And it's like got these really lovely green loopy leaves, which I really like, and it's got a nice edge on it. They, instead of growing up like the Metallica grows up, these ones kind of grow more outwards, which I think is kind of fun and different. Very uncommon. A lot of snake plants will grow vertically. This one growing out is a little bit more fun, and it might stay a little bit more compact as well, which could be good if you've got sort of space constraints. Might be a good idea to get something that's not so tall and long growing. But I do think they're really cool. They're fun, they're different, and you won't see them sort of in your everyday plant shop. But I feel like, again, these ones are becoming more and more common. I am seeing them more and more, just not in every sort of plant shop you can go to. Another absolute classic houseplant is the peace lily. Probably a lot of people's fairly early on houseplant collections contained a peace lily. They're often given as gifts as well. And they do come in a couple different variegated forms. I have this one, which is the Spathiphyllum diamond variegated, which I absolutely love. I think it is really, really cool and sort of marbly in there. I'm personally not the biggest fan of sort of traditional plain green peace lilies. I'm not in them for the flowers even. Like, the flowers are fine. I've got a flower growing on this one. I just cut a flower off of this one. I don't grow them for the flowers. And so the normal green peace lilies, not really my jam, but chuck some variegation in there and I'm all over it. I really, really love this one. I found it so incredibly easy to grow. Again, I've got it in semi-hydro because I'm an underwater and peace lilies are fairly thirsty, but if you can take care of a normal peace lily, you can take care of this one. Not a problem, and it's just a little bit more fun. It might want slightly more light in general because variegated plants tend to like slightly more light than their non-variegated counterparts, but I haven't found this one like begging for anything extra, really. Another one that I've seen that I really, really like is the Spathiphyllum Sensation Jessica. Oh, how cool are these leaves? I've been so tempted to get the Jessica several times now. I think they are so cool and interesting, and how the leaves can grow like almost entirely white. This one definitely, I think, would need a lot more light than the sort of average peace lily just because it is so variegated. But I feel like if you're able to put it in a higher light situation, not like direct full sun, but higher light than the average peace lily, which can handle lower, you could have a really, really nice, beautiful, gorgeous white plant. And I think that's fun. I like it. I think they're really, really cool, and the sort of like stripiness that they get, I think is awesome. If I could get my hands on one of those, I probably will at some point. This is one that I've seen quite commonly in small plants. I think there were actually some at Malvern the other week I could have bought. I just didn't, because I think if I'm buying a peace lily, I kind of want to buy it at least as a decent sized plant, because I don't really like the small ones. I feel like I will end up underwatering them, even if I put it in semi-hydro, because they are so thirsty. If they're bigger, I feel like I can tolerate that sort of watering need a little bit more. Does that make sense? I don't know. But that's how I feel about it. I want one. I would get one in an instant. And then the last plant is an uncommon version of the jade plant, or Crassula ovata. This really, really cool, like succulent plant, super easy to care for. Again, there's a variegated version. I want one so badly. I've mostly seen them in California, not really as much here in the UK. I would love to get my hands on a variegated jade plant here. That would be awesome. Obviously, we're not in like the sort of climate where they can grow outdoors here in the UK, and so they'd have to be grown as a houseplant. And so the market for them isn't quite as high as they would be in somewhere like California where my parents live, where they can just have them outside. I can totally, like, I've seen them much more out there. Here, not as much. I don't even think I've seen a variegated jade plant for sale in the UK. Maybe I'll have to like look through sort of Etsy and eBay and sort of stuff, like private sellers as opposed to shops. I don't think I've ever seen one being sold in a shop in the UK, which, I mean, that's how uncommon it is. It's so cool. I know it's probably quite slow growing. In general, jade plants are very slow growing, like long lasting plants. And so I can imagine the variegated version, which isn't able to produce as much energy, would be slightly slower, but you know, it's all good. We can just be patient with it. But hopefully I will be able to get one day. I would love like a sort of stem cutting if possible, because I can propagate them from stem cutting. I struggle a little bit more with leaf cuttings of jade plant propagation, and succulents in general. Not as good at that, personally. And then one more thing before we go, though, I kind of want to chat about, because I really wanted to include some sort of Hoya on this list as well, but I'm struggling to figure out where the line is with uncommon Hoya. So, like, I feel like common Hoya linearis, that's pretty out there and like very easily attainable. Hoya Crimson Queen and Princess, they're around quite easy. The Cronianas are more and more common, but it's like, okay, does a Polyneura count as a common Hoya? What about a Wilbur Graves? Are those uncommon Hoyas? I don't really know where that like distinction line is. And so I would love to hear your input on that, because if I ever did make a part 3 for this video, which I would love to do, I'm sure I can find some more uncommon common plants. I'm positive there's more. I would love to include some Hoyas on that list, because I didn't include them even on the first plant list, just because like, is there uncommon versions that aren't just like variegated? Because I know there's like the variegated version of the Polyneura. Yeah, it's an uncommon version of a common plant, but I don't want every single plant on a list to be a variegated version of a common plant, if that makes sense. Because I feel like that's just a little bit boring. I mean, I love variegation, don't get me wrong. It's one of my favorite things, and if I can get a plant variegated, I will almost always get it variegated as opposed to not variegated, because I like a bit of like white variegation in there. But like, variegation does not uncommon make. If that makes sense. So I would love to hear your input on what makes a Hoya uncommon. At what level would you consider a Hoya uncommon? Let me know down below in the comments. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I also want to give a huge shout out to the newest members of my Good Growing family over on Patreon, Ilona and Emery. Thank you so much for joining in. I really appreciate you joining in the fam. I hope you love it over on my Patreon, where I post like bonus content. I do live chats, polls, early access to things going on in my life, stuff like that. It's all over there on my Patreon. If anyone else is interested in joining, it is £3 a month, and for that you get everything. There's only one tier. You get all the things. It's just one big happy family. Oh, access to the Discord server as well. Basically, it's just a fun plant zone, more than your average YouTube plant zone. But it's there if you want it. Totally don't worry if that's not your thing. Don't worry about it. All good. Otherwise, thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up down below. Leave a comment on other houseplanty things you'd like me to talk about in the future. If you want a part 3 to this video, let me know down below, and I can hopefully make it happen. And subscribe for more. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to keep growing. Bye!